My name is Bill Kochman. Welcome to the introduction to the Bill's Bible Basics YouTube channel. In case you don't know anything about me, I am a Christian writer, a poet, a graphic artist, an online evangelist, and the founder and webmaster of the Bill's Bible Basics website and the Christian Social Network. I first began this channel back in 2011. However, I didn't really get around to using it until 2018 when I uploaded around 30 of my videos. About a dozen of them were articles I had written for my Bill's Bible Basics website, while the rest were examples of some of my Christian poetry. However, not long after that, I got rather busy with other facets of my online ministry. Thus, I neglected this channel until this current year, 2022. Now, concerning what you can expect to find here, basically, it will be some of the same study materials that you can find on my Bill's Bible Basics website. Of course, the big difference will be that instead of you reading it online, I will be reading it to you myself. That will include some of my BBB articles and series, some of my poetry, and as well as some of my KJV Bible verse lists. At this point, let me tell you a little bit about myself. As you can see, I'm not exactly a spring chicken anymore. I'm actually in my late 60s. I've known the Lord my entire life since I was a boy. In fact, I can't remember a point in my life when I did not believe in God and the Bible. Even as a preteen, I had questions about God, and I wanted to understand things. Eventually, I felt the Lord's call in my life during my teenage years. That was over 50 years ago. Since then, I have been doing my best to serve the Lord in various ways. For example, I have been involved in different types of ministry such as street witnessing, busking, door-to-door, and track passing. However, now that I am getting older and due to the fact that my health is in decline in a number of ways, I find myself limited to this online ministry, that is, to Bill's Bible Basics. I first began writing articles and series 29 years ago in 1993. I started out with a Macintosh-based BBS, or Bulletin Board Service, which you can read about in my article entitled The Internet, Our Final Frontier, Your Last Chance. You will find the URL for the article in the description below. On a side note, for those of you who are curious and who may be too young to know, a BBS was a software tool which we used to communicate online long before the internet became available to the public. Eventually, I opened my very first online account with a local ISP, or Internet Service Provider. Then, in 1997, I started my very first website, which eventually became known as End Time Prophecy Net. I used that domain name for 16 years before changing it to Bill's Bible Basics a number of years ago. To say the least, in those early days, End Time Prophecy Net was a very simple, plain affair compared to what I can do now, insofar as web design is concerned. At any rate, it was at that point in 1997 that I first began putting my articles on the web. Prior to that time, I just shared them on my BBS. And I've been sharing my work online ever since then. Since that time, so many years ago, I have also learned a lot of new web design skills, which have allowed me to create a much better website and offer new services as well. The latest being the Christian Social Network, which is a social network similar to Facebook, except it's specifically for Christian believers. What you might find interesting is the fact that I never touched a computer in my entire life until I was 37 years old. That was at a local business where I worked. My boss sat me down in front of a Mac SE, or maybe it was a Mac Plus, I can't remember now, but I had no computer experience whatsoever at that time. You see, I'm the kind of guy who likes to take it slow, read the manual, and learn as I go. But my boss just sat me down and said, "There you go." I mean, no manual, just get into it were her instructions. For me, it was a real shock to take that approach. It was just not my normal way of doing things. But I did as she instructed me to do, and as I said, I started learning all about Macintosh computers, learning more and more with each passing year. Now I have this online ministry which the Lord has seen fit to give me. It's been an inspiration to me and a blessing and an encouragement to many other people as well. So that is just a basic rundown of where this ministry came from and what it's all about. Basically, it is about feeding the Lord's sheep with God's Word. I see that as my primary role at this particular point in my life. Of course, I've obviously done other things in my life as well. In other words, years ago, before I gave this online ministry my full attention, I worked at a number of secular jobs. For example, for a brief time, I owned and operated an aquarium design and maintenance business. And that's because I've been into tropical fish my entire life since I was a kid. I've kept both freshwater and saltwater aquariums. My largest tank was a 170-gallon marine tank, which I had back, let's see, when was that? That would have been the late 80s, very early 90s. Prior to having the job as I'm sorry, I just got tongue-tied. Prior to having my own aquarium maintenance and design business, I also was a manager at a local pet store. I've also worked as a security guard, and I was a radio disc jockey at a local radio station, an adult contemporary station. That was back in the late 80s, up until about 1990, I believe it was. While living in Japan several decades ago, I also taught conversational English in a private setting. But the point is, none of those things were really my calling. I'm convinced that preaching God's Word and sharing God's Word with His sheep is my true calling. Through experience, I have learned that this is what I'm best at. This is what God has called me to do. And it is something which I'm very dedicated to. It's my life, really. Honestly speaking, I don't want to do anything else. I just want to feed God's sheep and share the truth with them as best as I know it. Of course, as I point out in my article, Humility in Our Understanding of God's Word, I don't claim to know everything. I'm still learning a lot from God's Word. I'm always making new discoveries or correcting old misunderstandings and just continuing to grow, just like everybody else. As I go along, I'm using this ministry to share what I learn with my online friends. So again, I hope that you will enjoy this channel. I hope that God will bless it, and I hope that we will get some subscribers here, of course. That's basically it. Just a short little introduction from yours truly. If you'd like to help me out, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Also, please let your online friends know about my Christian channel as well. Thanks so much. With that, I'm going to cut this video short. God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this introductory video, and I also hope that you will post some comments below. I'll take it from there. The bottom line is that if you encourage me, then I will be more motivated to keep this channel going. Okay? Alrighty then. Again, God bless you, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now.